we have here Bedrock. If you're not familiar with Bedrock, it's pretty much this managed service that allows you to choose a model and then interact with it through an API. Probably we'll get into a couple of other details, features later on, but let's suffice that right now it allows you to do the API thing. And so you can use Bottle 3, you can use HTTP API, REST API. And so a lot of times it's like the question, like, how do I know when to control this? Because people can be making call, and then how do I know how much, like this example that I have here, the prompt is quite large. I'm sending all this information, and if I do this a lot of time, then kind of start getting high in the cost. So from the get-go, one of the things you can do, if you go into your Bedrock, go down to settings, then you will see here this model invocation login. And then you will see it like off, because that's by default. It will record every single API call, or rather invocation of the model, with a prompt. So it can get, the login can get quite large. So choose which environment and which areas you're going to be logging, and which information you're going to be logging here, right? Because the prompt and the answer is going to be logged. And then you can choose which type of request you're uh, going to be logging: text, image, or embedding. You can send them to S3, you can send them to CloudWatch, or you can send them to both. So in my case, I have set up in both. So it's going to both S3 and CloudWatch. Now, S3, what it does, and I can show you right now, it's a little bit of, I mean, you can handle these for analytics and things like that. But pretty much every request or every model invocation, it's gonna go into a JSON file, like compressed file, and so you will have each one of these different invocation that I sent. So you will need to manage it in that way. It's a JSON format, and I'll share with you a little bit of how it looks like. It's better if you just want to take a look through the UI. CloudWatch is a lot better. So in CloudWatch, here in my Bedrock, I set up a log group. This is my log group name. The service role, when I set it up, I just create a new, I use a new role, so that I don't have to worry too much about the permissions. So I did that, and then off it went, and I start testing it. And so it's sending all this information over here. Now, the interesting thing here is that, let me load older mod. Okay. When I see here, it's going to tell me what time, of course, the account and the identity. Who sent this request? And so this is useful. You have the request, you have the request ID, and the model ID. Well, so the combination of these information will allow you to start determining the cost. What I mean by that is that, well, you have the prompt itself. You have all these really long prompt. Don't worry, you don't have to count it. It will give you the input token count. So if you have the input token count, you have the model type, then it's a matter of calculating how like the cost of this. You also have the output token, and so then you have your top token. So some models will have the same pricing for input and output. Some models will have a different pricing. So just keep that in mind. But this is a really good way not only to keep with the costs. You can take a look at how many tokens and map that over time, see how many tokens are being utilized, and that will give you an idea of the cost and control it. But also who is sending the request, and ultimately being able to control that. Now, this is on Bedrock. So we're talking about LLMs on Bedrock. It is completely managed. When we're talking about LLMs in SageMaker Studio, in SageMaker, which is another way to do it, then it works a little bit differently. And in that area, then you're deploying an instance. In this case, I'm deploying this ML G5 to X large for this particular model. It can be any instance depending on the model. And then you can tag it. You can add tags at the bottom here about the instance where you're deploying the model for inference. Then this will work with other, like any other strategy that you have with model tagging on two instances. And if you're in DoiT, like if you have DoiT console, then you'll be able to visualize this in your DoiT console, and DoiT will be able to track the cost of these resources. So those are the strategies that I will say, hey, help you with being able to keep track of the costs and be able to see, hey, is this going up or down, or what's going on here? And so just keep an eye on that cost depending on the model that you use. Right now, a lot of the models that are being used is Anthropic one, very popular one. So you keep in mind that it's price per 1,000 input tokens. So it's, I don't even know how to say this, 0.003.
Half a cent.
Half a cent, yeah. Or 1 point, is that that? I don't even know.
1.5 cents.
1.5.
1.5 cents.
Yeah, 1.5. Is it 1.5 cents? Yeah, it's 1.5 cents. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. 1.5 cents, right, for the output token. And so you can do that. Now, one last thing that I will say is that if you are in the chat, something that I like on some of these models, for example, is that I can come do this. Like this is an example, but it can be any of the ones I have. What it will do down here is going to start trying to give you an overall metrics of the ones that you utilize. And this is really good when you are prototyping, or just testing the models. It will allow you to just get a sense. It's like, okay, how much am I using? How can I reduce modify your prompt so that your output is low? As you can see here, it's giving me the cost. It's giving me the input tokens and the output tokens. So it's just going to give you an idea of like, okay, how much am I going to be able to, how much can I modify in order to get that optimal input token, output token, and the cost of it. I really like this about the Bedrock chat. So keep using that. The plate very useful. So hopefully I was able to cover the like integral way, all the aspects. Hopefully I could it gives you good information for those who ask around FinOps and cost monitoring. Yeah, let me know if you have follow-up questions.
And yeah, and specifically for team members, if you wanted to use what you just showed to identify which team members made the most calls, can we?
Yeah, this is where CloudWatch. If you send these logs to CloudWatch, then you can start doing different things here. You can parse, like you can add a metric from CloudWatch that has, okay, where's it called, group by the identity, and be able to show, okay, how much each person is actually, how many tokens each person is using. So that way it will give you an insight. You can also do the calculation of multiply these input or output tokens by the cost of the model, give you a cost, but you can start by just inputting or like mapping the input tokens and the output tokens by the identity. And then that will give you, still giving you an idea of like how many tokens each person is using.
Does this also answer the second question? Manage, tag the different usages of models. I just want to go for.
Yeah, for sure. So think about it. Like when you have these models here in Bedrock, these are just services waiting to be utilized, right? So it really doesn't differentiate between, you're not going to have multiple models or multiple endpoints in Bedrock or for production. Sorry, if you're in the same account, let's say that you have multiple customers, you are not going to have one for customer A, customer B, or customer C. It doesn't allow you to do that unless you do a custom model. That's a little bit different. If you're using the default, the base models, and just utilizing those ones, you won't be able to have tags or differentiate between customer one or customer or multiple instances of the same model. So the tagging needs to happen at the application layer, right? So that's where the tagging needs to happen. So you know how much information is being sent in and out. If you have custom models, then of course each model can be tagged with, can be added with its own tags and be able to do that. The same thing goes with Sagemaker JumpStart. You can tag each inference point that you have, be able to, or each version even, to be able to know which model you're hitting. Now, in this case, one thing of observability that will be very, very useful is open telemetry. Your app, X-Ray or open telemetry will help you be able to export these, the application layer information similar to this, where you're saying, okay, I'm sending data to what is it called? To model A, I'm sending data to model B. This is how much data I'm sending, and all these different things that are happening. At the application layer, when you make an inference to the model in Bedrock, you are able to get this information back, like how many input tokens and how many output tokens. That's in the metadata of the request that you receive. So you'll be able to parse the data into that open telemetry. So that's it. That's useful, but this is the application layer.